Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Politics Relaxed podcast. This week we have an episode that we've been meaning to do for quite a long time now, and we finally got on to doing it, and that is our Brexit episode, because we haven't done one of those yet. So we've got Felix, Cameron, and Lily here, and we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons of Brexit, which is, of course, still a very big topic in the UK right now, especially with the negotiations restarting. So does anyone have a starting point they want to make?
Sure.
Yeah, come.
So you're going to have to give me a little bit of time here. I promise I'll try not to talk as much later because I've got loads of points to make and it's important to make them now.
Good.
So it's well documented that I'm on the Leave side of the EU debate, and as this is the topic of discussion today, I think it's worth me setting out the three main reasons for that. Firstly, I think it's important to say I'm absolutely for, not against, European cooperation. I'm also in favour of a European Economic Community, which was, of course, what the EU was originally. It was called the EEC. This would present economic opportunities for all the countries on our continent. The issue for me, and the issue for all British Eurosceptics, is the federal political system that was put in place to form the EU. Suddenly, this wasn't about countries on a continent making economic pacts with each other. Instead, a federal political system was born with its own parliament, its own executive, and of course, its own leaders, who, by the way, are not chosen by the people of Europe, but by the European heavyweights, mainly Germany and France. This is a true fundamental issue for all true Eurosceptic Democrats already, and now over the last decade, the true direction of the EU has become clear. It's become clear that there is no doubt the ultimate goal of the EU is to construct a massive continental supernation, in the process eroding all identity and the cultures of sovereign nations within Europe, and ultimately erasing their existence to form this continental supernation. You can already see this with the moves towards a united European army, for example. But we're not going to let it get to that stage because the Eurosceptic movements are too strong in countries like Italy, Holland, Austria, and even France. In my view, Brexit has triggered the fall of the EU. That's point one. My second point is on money, because the EU is a fundamentally flawed system whereby Britain, who paid the second most amount to the EU annually, were also suffering from a number of EU schemes, and also, despite the fact we paid the second largest amount, we have a population 105 times the size of it. Luxembourg had the same number of votes in EU as the UK. That's totally unfair if you ask me. My third and final reason for supporting Leave is simple. Immigration. Everyone knows that I support immigration, but I also support controlling immigration. Interestingly enough, I've been reading David Cameron's autobiography, and he said something I'm going to echo, which was, it's because we support immigration that we support controlling immigration. And potentially 446 million inhabitants of all 27 other European nations to immigrate to the UK. Just to put that into context, the UK's population is 67 million, and this is a number that was unregulated because our government here in the UK had no control over free immigration for EU citizens. In 2015, nearly 200,000 EU citizens immigrated to the UK, which was double the number from a decade before, and now we have that control back. Our government can get a handle on the issue of a catastrophic exponential rise in EU citizens taking advantage of free movement to immigrate to the UK. I'm glad to see we've already halved immigration from the EU back to 100,000, although we're still not at the levels pre-2004. Those are my reasons, and I think it's important that I've set them out. I'm not going to engage in a Leave Remain debate today. Instead, I'll simply make the point of unity. We all know there is a majority in this country for Brexit. It was clear in 2015 when the only mainstream party proposing a referendum were voted in with a majority. It was confirmed in 2016 in the referendum, and once again, the voice of the people was heard loud and clear in the 2019 general election when the people of Britain voted en masse to get Brexit done. So can we unite onto that mandate, look to the future, and I want to finish by saying we must move on and deliver on the priorities of the people of all regions of our great United Kingdom.
Right, so thank you for that, Cameron. There's quite a lot of things in there that we can look at. Felix, do you want to respond to that? Any of that?
Yeah, I'm on the Remain side, pretty obviously, I think, with my view. And you brought up a lot of points there, and I don't think I'll be able to address all of them. And since you're not going to engage in this Leave Remain debate anymore, I thought I'd just kind of do the same and set out why I believe in a Remain side of the argument. What I firstly thought the Leave campaign completely lied. For example, just to scratch the surface of this of these lies, we can just look at the Brexit bus, 350 million pounds to the NHS. Well, actually, if you look at the fact checking on that one, it's not going to be that because of all the loss we're going to make by leaving the EU. Because it'll be such an uncertain time for the next maybe even 5 to 10 years of the UK. It's also like cutting all these bridges between so many different countries, which means we're going to have to look elsewhere. And for example, like I said on the China episode, it means that we can't go in as hard on China as maybe we should, because we're going to lose out on Brexit and we need a trade deal basically with China, which is a bit disappointing. Then I think it's funny you mentioned immigration, because it was only this week that the EU basically said that they're not going to in the what do you call it? In the negotiations, which you mentioned at the start, the EU won't be taking any refugees back that tried to cross the border. So it effectively means that we're getting more immigration. Secondly, the negotiations have been done terribly and were in too quick. I don't think Theresa May was the right person to lead those debates, to lead those talks. Then you mentioned the people's mandate. Well, 2%. That's really not enough. Really not a big enough mandate. If 48% of the people don't agree with what you're doing, that's still quite a large number, and that effectively means that it should be the parliamentarians deciding, not the people. Thirdly, and I mentioned that before, the lies from the Leave campaign basically influenced the debate quite a lot, and that's just a few reasons why it was not very structured, and I think there are so many other reasons as well.
Right, so Cameron, would you like to respond to those points there?
Happily. I think I'm not gonna think about the past, but what I'm trying to do is think about the future here. And when we're talking about, well, what Felix talked about in terms of immigration there was not what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about refugees. We all know that about refugees. What I was talking about is the free movement and the EU citizens immigrating, the potential for 446 million people to come to the UK unregulated. That was something that I found would damage us as a country, in my opinion. And on the other points, look, I mean, obviously understand Felix has his opinions, and you know, the Leave Remain debate is done. But I want to address especially this point of there not being a mandate, because, as I said, I think in my opinion it's been confirmed 3 times. Firstly, in 2015, before the Brexit referendum, before all these, or what Felix calls lies, in 2015, the only mainstream party, the Conservatives, that were proposing the Brexit referendum were voted in. And I would suggest, and some people won't agree with me on this, I would suggest that would be because there was already this mandate for leaving the EU. And then in 2016, that was confirmed by a majority of 600,000 people, which last time I checked, quite a lot of people. And then it was confirmed again in 2019. Literally a few months ago, people said overwhelmingly that they wanted to leave the EU. So I don't understand why we're still having this argument when actually we should be thinking about the future, what we can get out of Brexit, the positives. And it's not that we're cutting bridges as such, because we're having this trade deal. You know, what we're stopping is federalisation, and we're stopping mass immigration. That's what we're stopping here. Instead, we're replacing that with structured and important trade deals that will help shape Britain's future.
So, Lily, do you want to respond to Cameron there?
Yeah, just to touch on one of Cameron's points that I think he briefly mentioned, was that the majority of Britain voted to leave. So rather on dwelling on that and having the debate of remaining and leaving, we need to focus on how to get the most out of the deal and how to prosper the most in the future as a country.
Yes. Felix.
Yeah, I'll take Cameron's point first, and then obviously Lily's was kind of included in that. So when you were talking about the big numbers of people that could enter the EU, that is a ridiculous statement because, like, realistically, like 400 million people are not going to enter the UK tomorrow. That will not happen. And immigration levels have not been spiking recently. It's been quite steady. So we can probably predict how many people are going to come into the EU. Then you talked about all this mandate. In 2015, the only reason that was on the Tory manifesto was because David Cameron was worried he wouldn't get in. And it was to pick up a few of those UKIP votes. And then if we're talking about the future, like, we can't keep ignoring this debate because it's so important to our futures, and our futures could be ruined because David Cameron was worried that he wouldn't get it, so he decided to call a referendum. It's absolutely ridiculous. We can't, like, no matter how, we could have the best negotiators in the world who could see into the future, and it would still be a bad situation for the UK. No matter how good our negotiators are, no matter how good the deal is, it will still be a bad deal.
Yeah, just actually touching on that, about the deal or no deal. I just want to ask specifically Cameron here. If you were the Prime Minister or a negotiator, what would you be looking for in a Brexit deal?
Well, obviously, the thing is, this is a trade deal specifically because, of course, we've left the EU with a deal, which no one predicted, by the way. Now we are negotiating this really important trade deal, and I think the government have got this one right. I must say, we're sticking to our red lines on fisheries, on the ECJ, etc., etc. They're really important details, but the EU are just not having it. Unfortunately, they think that even though we're leaving Europe, for example, they can still have access to our fish. I mean, we're not asking for unlimited access to French cheese, are we? So why should they have unlimited access to our fish? So they've got to get over this, and the negotiators really have to work hard to get this trade deal done, because I want to see it done. Everyone wants to see it done. It'll be great when we do see it done. It's great that we're getting a trade deal with America as well for the first time in 40 years because of the EU. We can now get, having left the EU, we can now get this trade deal with America, but also the trade deal with Europe is important. And I wish the EU would just back down on small issues like the fisheries and give us what we want so that we can get this deal done, which is in the best interests of both Europe and Britain.
Felix, what do you think about that?
How can you expect Europe to bend over backwards for us after we are choosing to leave the EU to the detriment of us and the EU? Like, this deal is like, why should we expect the EU to be like, yeah, have your fish, have everything, have all that you want? They're not going to do that, and we shouldn't expect them to do that.
We should, because if they don't do it, they're not going to get anything. So if they actually engage, they're going to get something out of us. And if they don't...
No, they have nothing to lose. They have literally nothing to lose.
Which is why they're sticking to their fisheries policy, because they're desperate to not lose our fish.
Okay, go on then, Felix.
I think it's laughable that we're arguing about fisheries, actually, because Nigel Farage sat on the fisheries council. So how about if we elected somebody who was actually decent and could represent the UK properly at the EU level, instead of voting Brexit and voting for somebody who wanted to leave that EU? He turned up to one fisheries meeting. It's laughable that we're arguing about fisheries when we could have had Nigel Farage sitting on the fisheries board.
Okay, fine. So I'll take the point on fisheries, but I'm so fed up of this tone of what happened 4 or 5 years ago now, and Nigel Farage, how about we didn't vote Brexit? Like, it's clear we did. We voted for Brexit. Can we just get on with it and stop arguing about not voting Brexit when we did?
So, Lily, what do you think on this at this point here?
Well, I definitely agree with Cameron on this one. I mean, it's clear that in 2016, 51% of the British population voted to leave the European Union. And that doesn't necessarily matter if they were misinformed at the time. They voted anyway. That's what the public wants. So to be more at an ease of mind, if you will, we need to move on with these negotiations and actually get these deals done so we can actually see what Britain will be like fully post European Union.
Like Cameron and Lily have both said that this thing has happened. We can't go back in time and change it. So we need to look forward, and we need to, instead of arguing about what's happened and we can't change, we need to talk about what could happen in the future and what would be the ideal move. So Felix here, because you've been so anti-Brexit, what would be ideal for you to happen in the future now?
God, that is a good question, and I don't know. I am stumped. But I think if we could stay in the single market. I think that would definitely help. But I don't think that will happen, and it's a bit it's unrealistic to expect that. God, I mean, if we can get a few trade deals, that'll be good. But I can't see a good way out of this. I really can't. And you know what? If in 5 years' time we look back at it and there's like, oh, that was a great decision, I'll have my hands up and be like, I was wrong. But I cannot see this going well for the UK.
Cameron, what do you think about what Felix just said there?
Last time I checked, we left the single market when we left the EU on the 31st of January, but maybe Felix is living in a different world. It's certainly starting to seem like that. I can see the positives here, which I think because maybe I'm a big optimist, but also because I obviously supported Brexit. I can see a future where we are not biased against those who are trying to immigrate who are not from the EU. And I can see a future where we can get important trade deals with Canada, with Australia, with New Zealand, and with America mostly, as well as with the EU. And I can see this future where we can take advantage of immigration from all over the world, and we can have trade deals with loads of individual sovereign countries who are our true allies, rather than the ones that will be quite happy to stab us in the back.
What do you think of this future that Cameron talks about with these trade deals and for immigration?
I think you did bring up a good point there. I think what's it called?
Kansas.
Yeah, that's it. Kansas. I think I can see that happening, and that would be a positive maybe that comes out of it. But I still am really struggling to see the light as it's put. I really do not understand the benefits of leaving the EU. Like, we're gonna see a recession from it, and we did already see a stump from the Brexit referendum till, like, we confirmed we were leaving, and it'll probably keep happening. I think with the COVID-19 response, especially, we can bring that into it as well. We could have worked closer with our European allies to try and find a vaccine. We can still do that, but I don't know if it'll be as effective. I think we'll also miss out on a lot of small businesses will miss out on the freedom of movement, which is really positive for like trade and businesses. But again, I really can't see the positive. So if somebody could kind of enlighten me, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, that does bring us on to my next point, which was the pros and cons of Brexit. But Cameron, I feel like you're probably the professional on this to help Felix with what the pros are.
Well, I think I explained them pretty clearly. My three main reasons for supporting Brexit. I don't want to try and say all that again, but to cut it short, it means that we're out of a federal political system that's working against us. It means that we have proper control of our immigration. Whereas, and I know Felix brought up earlier, I forgot to address this point actually. Felix said that we weren't seeing a spike. We did see a spike. Within a decade, immigration from the EU doubled. I mean, how is that? How does anyone see that as acceptable? So we're cutting it down. We're taking back control, to use the mantra that most people don't like, but anyway. And yeah, the other point was about money. I mean, we're going to see some economic impacts from this for sure. I accept that, and I think every Eurosceptic accepts that. But we're not leaving because we don't think we're going to see any economic impacts. We're leaving because it's the right thing to do, and because we are going to save money in the long term. Because I hate to break it to you, but the 350 million figure is close to what we pay to the EU every week, and that's a lot of money that we can reinvest. And so yeah. I do think that we can see a positive future. I've talked about the pros a lot. I accept there's cons as well. Eurosceptics accept there are cons to Brexit. Like I said, the economic impacts, there will be a few small bumps in the road, but we're going to get to a positive place in the end where we can have a global Britain rather than one that is being forced into European integration, which will end up, of course, with, as I said, the continental supernation.
Felix, what do you think?
I'm still confused because you said that it's a federal system and they don't work for us, but I need more than that. That's telling me something that you believe. I need some evidence, and I need some like actual reasons, not just these like blanket statements. And the same with take back control. Please give me what you want to see change, because that's still not positive to me. I need to hear the positives, not just a blanket statement.
Yeah, Cameron, go ahead.
I don't want to get drawn into the take back control slogan too much, but what we are in reality doing by leaving the EU is taking back control of immigration, we're taking back control of courts, and we're taking back control of our economy. We're also taking back control of our politics because, and this is, I know earlier on, the first thing I said was making the point about federalisation, and that's the big point for me. And Felix seems to think it's a blanket statement. I made a load of very specific mini sub-statements, if you like, earlier. I'm not going to repeat them because that's going to take ages. But overall, my view is that we don't get a fair chance. We didn't get a fair chance in Europe, especially when you look at the fact that Luxembourg had the same number of votes as the UK. And how does that work? As I said, we've got a population 105 times the size of them, and we're the second biggest contributor to the EU. I mean, and we just didn't get a proportionate amount of power for what we did for the EU.
So, thank you everyone for coming out today and talking about it. Obviously a very big part of the future now. And to anyone listening, thank you. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe and to follow our Instagram. So thank you and goodbye.